I have this page here, and as you can probably tell, I haven't written one line of CSS to actually style this yet. But even though I haven't written one line of CSS, if I come into my system settings and I switch them over to dark mode like I usually have things, you'll notice that the page switches automatically to a dark mode. And as I said, I haven't written one line of CSS yet. So how'd I do that? Well, in this video, we're going to explore that and more. Hello, my friend and friends. I'm so glad that you've come to join me once again. And if you're new here, my name is Kevin, and I'm here to help you fall madly, deeply in love with CSS. And if I can't get you to fall in love with it, I'm hoping to at least help you be a little bit less frustrated by it. One way that we can always be less frustrated with CSS is by writing less of it. And well, as I said, we can do a light and dark mode without writing any CSS. But we're also going to look at how we can take advantage of the behaviors of this and how it all works. So when we do want to add our own custom styling and make things look a little bit nicer, we can still do a lot less work to get the sort of styles that we might be after. All right, so here we have my website that has no CSS, and we can even see like here is the HTML and here's my CSS file. Right now though, it's not actually switching to a dark mode, even though I've left my system settings to be in the dark mode. And I want to look at one way people create a dark mode, and that's with an @media prefers color scheme dark. And we're going to put some colors here. So let's just say my body, maybe instead of being white, we can say the background is going to be we'll just say like a EF, something that's like a light gray. And then here we can choose my body, and you do your background. And we should be using the full one. I've talked in the past about why we shouldn't use shorthand. So we'll do background color, and instead of EF, we'll go to sort of the other extreme with a 13. And because I do have dark mode enabled on my system, it switches over. But then we have my text. Okay, so that's no problem. Here my color should be black, and then here my color should be white. And that works, but look at all these form fields. The form fields all don't look so great. And that's kind of annoying then if I have to go into all of those form elements. And a lot of the time you are going to be custom styling them to a certain extent, but it doesn't mean you're going to be going all out and completely redoing them all. And then here I have my link that needs to be redone. And there's a lot of sort of defaults here that aren't getting switched that would be nice if they at least were pushed in the right direction, and I wouldn't have to write as much CSS to get things done. So instead of all of this, one way we can actually do that is by coming here and saying root. And it doesn't have to be on the root. Root is the same as your HTML. I'm going to put it on the root because the documentation generally speaks of the root with this one, but it's just a higher specificity selector for our HTML selector. And we actually have a color scheme property that we can use now. And there's a few different options for it. So we have a light, which means light. We have dark, which means dark, and we have normal. So normal means as if you didn't do it, right? You haven't touched anything, so just normal is the default behavior. If I go to light, it's going to look like I didn't really do anything. And then we can also do dark, and look at that. The whole thing switches just like that. Now, this is important on how this is actually working though and what it's doing, because it's not actually changing the background color like I have here. It's changing the canvas color, which is what your background color propagates to. I don't want to get too much into that, but it effectively sets our background color. And it's setting it to a dark color. It's not necessarily black. This is based on the user agent styles, so our browser defaults, and the browsers can have different default values for these. And we'll see that in action in a second. But we'll have a dark color for the background and a light color for the text. And again, the text doesn't necessarily have to be white. It can be a different color. But what's really cool with this is it automatically styles all our form fields. If things in here have scroll bars, it's automatically going to be a dark scroll bar that's coming in instead of a light scroll bar and things like that. So that's really, really cool, and just does it, and everything sort of works, which is really, really nice. And it's one of those things where it gives us a nice push in the right direction that we can then come in and modify some things with, because maybe we don't want to have these colors on these. Now there is one problem when we say prefers color scheme dark, is what happens if somebody has their system preferences set to light. They're still going to get a dark mode. And so this actually does accept two values, and you just choose the one that you want to be the primary one. So here I can add light and say I want it to be dark. That's the author's choice, is dark mode is the preferred one, but we can also have a light mode. And it could be, we can actually emulate these both in Chrome, but you have to go into the command palette for that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over in Polypane. And Polypane's a cool browser because you can have multiple windows opened, and it's, you can get mobile view and like a big view and have them all next to one another. But for this one, what we're going to do is I'm going to go on the second one, go to the change options, and prefers color scheme to dark. And so just so we can see the two of them in action together, and you can see the different things that's changed, including the link color and things like that. So we can see both of them here. And as I did say, we can do this without writing any CSS. But before we jump over to that, I just want to say that, this does sort of the user agent styles. So it's setting the very base styles for us, including those things I looked at, with the forms and all of that. But sometimes then you might want to do your H1, your H2, your H3, and give those a different color. So maybe on my light version, they're going to be an HSL of, let's go with 255 for the color, 50% saturation, and then 20% lightness, which is perfect over here. And maybe we could even, let's pump that up to 30, just so we can see it's this like purpley color coming through, but we can't really see that on the dark one, where that's where this prefers color scheme can come in. And then we can use a prefers color scheme, but we use our H1, H2, H3. And then here we come in and we'll grab the same color and we'll switch this over to a 75 maybe. And there we go. Now we get something, or maybe even an 80 would be better here. And we get our dark purple here, our light purple here. So we're relying on a lot of the user agent styles, but we're supplementing them where we need to. And of course, we'd probably change the font family and do other things to make this look a little bit nicer. But at least it's setting this base stage for us. What you're going to do is generally use this and then supplement it by coming in and styling things to be able to accept both of them. And as I said, we can break this out and not have it actually in the CSS. So let's comment that out. We'll have two sites that are light, except, oh my goodness, I've completely broke this side. And I'm not even sure why. I think Polypane is probably just defaulting because I'm in the dark mode right now. So don't worry too much about that just yet. What I'm going to do is come over here. We're going to fix everything. Because I'm going to do a meta tag here. And this meta tag is going to be, the name of it is color scheme, and the content is whatever you need the content to be. And this works exactly like this color scheme property here. So I could just have a light, I could just have a dark, or I can do the dark and the light. And when I do that, you can see this page has now fixed itself because we now have a light theme and a dark theme that are both available for our site. And that's what this meta keyword is doing, or not a meta keyword, but a meta tag. And the nice thing about doing it with this meta tag is the CSS file doesn't even have to load. So this can parse this, set up all the user agent styles immediately, and then after that can start applying your CSS. And so to me, that's just a nice little thing that we can do. So we can get rid of it from here. And again, you can customize things here. Now, one thing that's important with this also is, remember, this is setting your canvas color, so it's like your background color of the entire browser without setting a color on it. It's setting your default text colors. It's not like setting an actual background color on your body or your HTML. So you can't really use this in sort of like, I'm going to pick this and just flip things, but you can enforce color schemes on different things. And what I mean for that is if I needed, say I'm styling things and I have a very specific setup for my forms, and let's just do, so, you have a form and all your forms on your site have a dark background color on them. So we say background is 333333. I don't know why you would do this. Then we have a color white. And you'll notice here things don't look as nice as they do on the dark side of things like that. So what we could do is here, or this could even be if you haven't set up like a light mode and a dark mode. You're just working on a regular light site and you just happen to have a area that has a dark background with some form elements or scroll bars or something, and you want all of these native UI elements to be styled. Well, we can come in on that and we can say that the color scheme of these is dark, and it will set everything in there to have that dark color scheme. Now, that does not say, if I come on my H1 and I say color scheme is dark, it's not going to change the background of that. So that is very important. Same thing, if I take off this background color here, it's not actually going to affect my form. Let's take off that. It's not changing the text color and it's not changing the background color of the form. It's just changing the UI elements that are inside of the form. Because when we target the root and we do it at that level, we're setting the user agent styles for the page that are then getting overwritten in different areas. So this isn't going to set my color user agent styles different for a form than it is for the page itself, if that makes a little bit of sense. So when we use it outside of the root, it's really to control mostly all our UI elements. So when you have your date pickers, and stuff like this, how this is going to be styled, because let's just switch this back over to light and you'll see it, it should, whoops, not that one. We'll switch this one to light and it will switch on that side. And if we go and choose my date picker, then we get the light date picker and all the UI elements will automatically switch and be relevant to one or the other. And I do want to finish this off just by saying it depends on the browser, and make sure you check everything. Because if we go and look in Firefox, you'll notice that things actually look a little bit different. And let's compare it directly to Chrome. Polypane, link in the description, by the way. It is based on Chromium, so it'd be similar to Chrome. But you'll notice the background colors are actually a little bit different. It's like a dark bluey purple in Firefox, whereas it's pretty much black from what I can tell in Chrome. And Safari is actually very similar, but speaking of Safari, I'm on Windows right now, so we can't look at it. But Safari's link color at the moment doesn't change. There is a bug request that's been filed to change it, but the problem with it not changing is you can't read it on the dark background. The contrast ratio is not high enough, whereas Firefox and Chrome are changing the color of the links to ensure that the contrast ratios stay high. So if you are using this, don't assume it's an end-all be-all, everything will just work. Do look at other browsers, test things, but again, it handles a lot of the things out of the gate, especially with our form element styling and a few other things right out of the box, which is really, really nice. But one other thing with when you have a light mode and a dark mode on your website, it's a really good idea, even if it's following the user system preferences. Some people who prefer system preferences in dark do like light modes of websites and vice versa. So it's always a good idea to have a toggle switch so the user can actually switch between the two if you've taken the time to actually create two different color schemes. And if you'd like to learn how to do that, as well as have it save that state between different visits, I've created a video where I looked at exactly that, and it is right here for your viewing pleasure. And with that, a very big thank you to my supporters of awesome, Jan, Johnny, Stuart, Tim, and Doug over on Patreon, as well as all my other patrons for their monthly support. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.